Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations round number 7 in the N500 Classic car at Fuji Speedway. So for this round, this was race number 2. We actually made it into the top split. The first race we were just outside the top split, but race number 2 we were back into the top split just about. I think we were ranked number 20 in the lobby, so we were the lowest ranked driver. That was mainly because we lost a lot of driver rating in the previous round where we did a couple of rage quits. You can see I managed to put it in a very good qualifying position of P8, which quite surprised me because road cars in general are not very strong for myself. I tend to be quite weak with low downforce cars, so I was quite surprised to put it into P8 position ahead of a lot of very fast drivers, so very happy with that. We did pick up a bit of a slipstream, but in race 1 we actually did, I think it was 2 tenths slower without any slipstream at all. So the slipstream gained us a little bit, but it also caused us a little bit of understeer in a few corners and a little bit of traction issues coming out of the corners. Obviously we don't use traction control, but just some traction issues coming from some of the corners where you lose a little bit of downforce. It's not as bad as high downforce cars like the Super Formula or the Group 2, for example. We can see there all the way through the grid, very high ranked lobby. Obviously a lot of fast drivers. TRO, I don't think he got in the best lap there, starting from P18. Firestorm also I don't think got a particularly strong lap in, starting from P19. So we were quite lucky that we got ourselves in with a good qualifying, managing to start from P8. So we're going to join the race. You can see there, starting from P8, we've got RC AFO in front of us and TRL Manuel Rodri behind us. Some very fast drivers around us. As we're going to start this race, as it's about to go green, we're going to go straight through to the TV replay camera as the race goes live and catch the action from the replay camera for lap 1 as we go live now. You can see I was running a black livery. Majority of people were running just the standard red livery that comes with it, but I decided to pick this livery. I found it on the just before when we were streaming the race. We just picked it randomly. And going into turn 1, try and just main aim not to outbrake yourself and go into the car behind. You see Manuel Rodri there behind us, taking a very tight line. I go for the normal line to try and get a nice solid exit from that corner. Everyone pretty much through turn 1, 100% clean. I cannot see any issues in the background there. So a nice clean start by all 20 drivers in this race as we work our way through lap 1, trying to just hang on into the cars in front, trying to make no mistakes. Obviously you don't want to make a mistake early on in these races, just trying to find your rhythm. Really important to concentrate, get into a rhythm early on, because if you start bad you tend to just run the race quite bad from start to finish. But so far everything's going okay, getting a nice solid exit from that left-hander. The rear starting to lose a bit of traction there as we're getting on the power and trying to stay in that slipstream. We're obviously in that slipstream range, so a little bit of loss of downforce, but a little bit of extra speed as well as we go into the braking. So we're going to have to take that into account as we go into the heavy braking zone, making sure that we brake really early there. As you can see everyone bunching up as the pack is really close together. So what happens is in general everyone brakes a little bit earlier, so it causes everyone to bunch up as we now go through the real technical section now. And just look how close this is, and so far no real issues in the race. It doesn't look like anyone's made any mistakes. It looks very much a train that's going on in the background. You see I think no real gains in position or anything as a Porsche lead in this race. The only Porsche driver in this race. Wasn't probably the best idea to pick the Porsche. Most people would have known if they would have tested it. The Porsche's tyre wear was absolutely a nightmare, and that's why 19 other cars in this race are all in the F40 and there's just one driver in the Porsche. Obviously it was very good at a hot lap. He got himself pole with that car, but I think he made the wrong choice in choosing that car for this race, as it's just not a very good car in general. As we're now going down the straight to start lap 2 into the braking zone, making sure we're braking very early again, stopping the car just in time for the apex and just trying to hang on into the back of Afo's car there. So everyone's obviously picking up a slipstream, so it's really important that you stay in the slipstream range, because you've got every car's picking one up from each other, and if you lose that you end up losing the train of cars. So at the moment everything's going really well. We're just trying to keep it nice and smooth, concentrating on that tyre wear as well. We're running -1 bias, and what I found with my driving style was that -1 bias gave me pretty much identical balanced tyre wear from the front to the rear. So the fronts were wearing very equal, and that's what I wanted. It might not have been as fast overall when you had the grip, but what it did, it gave you traction at the end of the stint, so it protected the rear tyres slightly and gave me good traction coming out some of the slower corners as we go into the heavy braking zone again. And this is the corner that I was really trying to make sure that I braked early on, because in the practice races that we did and some of the other races we were braking far too late into that corner. and it was costing me a lot of time because you run wide, then you lose the angle into the second part of the corner, and you lose about half a second to maybe more than that just by taking too much speed into it. So it's really important to get the braking right in this car, because the brakes were quite weak. They were probably the weakest thing in this car was the brakes. It had really good acceleration and top speed, but the brakes were fairly they felt a little bit awkward. You had to brake very early, especially picking up the slipstream from all the cars in front with the weak slipstream that they run in these races. Obviously tyre wear was on times 33 in this race, so an extremely high rate of tyre wear, so it was really important to take it easy, braking nice and early, and looking after everything on the car in terms of your tyres on the front and back. If you were too aggressive in any area, you know, drifting the car or sliding it or getting on the power aggressively, you would find that your tyres would really start overheating and wearing out very fast. As you see the Porsche up ahead already on lap 3 starting to struggle with that tyre wear, and that is because of the times 33 multiplier. He's now into P5. He went too deep into turn 1, obviously struggling on the brakes with the tyre wear kicking him, and now he's down to P5 and he's getting put under a lot of pressure from the cars in front. Obviously in front of me, they're in the F40, so they're going to be much faster than that Porsche now at this stage of the race as we go through to midway through lap 3. But that shows you how bad the tyre wear is. Obviously that 2.5 laps in, and that Porsche is really struggling, and struggling to get any traction from the corners. As we now again are going to go into the braking zone, he's picking up a slipstream from the cars in front. Obviously the Porsche hadn't had much slipstream before, and he goes into that corner a little bit too deep, outbrakes himself, and the two Ferraris try and go round together, all three of them pretty much sandwiching each other, and the Porsche losing traction. I'm going to have to go down the right hand side as Afo swipes into the Porsche in front of me, and that actually opens the space up for myself to go clean through, and that Porsche is really starting to struggle. You know, you're going to see everyone just swamping that Porsche in the mirror. I think he's down to P10 already, so from P1 to P10 in 3 laps really does show you why no one picked that Porsche for the actual race conditions. As we go through to the final corner now, you can see that P1 has actually built up a nice lead there, done a really good job, and built up it looks like he's close to being outside the slipstream, as we're now trying to follow that slipstream. There's 2 cars, pick up a penalty in this race, putting myself up to P5, so this is looking really good from P8 on the grid. We're now up to P5 and actually doing reasonably good race pace. I was quite surprised, to be brutally honest, because my race pace in this car was not great in practicing, but in this race we just seemed to get into a rhythm, kept it clean, and was driving quite nicely at this stage. We were putting 100% concentration in, trying to make sure that we didn't make any mistakes, and we're doing a good job at this stage, trying to hold on to the cars in front. And in P5 in this race, as we see from the replay camera, all the cars going through that fast left-hand corner nice and clean. Obviously a few cars starting to have issues in this race now where the tyre wear's kicking in. We were going through that wide line through there to try and get on the power a little bit early. You can see different people taking different lines through the corner, as Afro in front of us there has a little bit of a moment on the rear end starting to slide around a bit. And cars behind me there, you can see a move made by the TX3 driver in the green and blue livery car, kind of lost them a bit of time there as they're quite far back. It looked like they were getting close, but now they're quite far back. As we go into the braking zone, you can see VPN not really near the back of us, but then this was really random, he just randomly threw it up the inside from quite far back, and it was a bit aggressive. I think he missed his brake. I don't know if he missed his braking or he went for that move, and then again just pushed us out of the way, and a little bit naughty in my opinion. I think he should have given that position back. That's my view of the situation. I think he just threw it in there with no real opportunity of an overtake, so it was a little bit wrong. He did apologise at the end of the race, but to be honest, I would have rather he just give the position back, because we were in RCAFO's slipstream at that stage as Manuel Rodri makes a mistake running wide, and you can see how much time it's lost me. It's lost me over a second, probably about maybe 1.5 seconds, 1 second lost just through that little incident, as we've now not got the slipstream obviously of AFO. We're picking up from VPN now, but we were ahead of VPN, so probably around the second that we lost as we go in the pits, as everyone clipping that wall on the pit entry. It was what everyone was doing to try and carry the maximum amount of speed into the pits as possible. So now we're just going to obviously swap the tyres. No need for fuel change in this race, as there was no fuel saving involved with this. And now it's going to be really important where we come back out. Was there any drivers that did try to do an undercut? It was a very risky strategy trying to pit early in this race with the time 33 tyre wear. You see there, GTA Tijani had pitted on lap 3. As we go into the braking and we missed our brakes, we actually clean went into the side of Tijani. We put our hazards on, lifted off the throttle a couple of times. You can see it there on the throttle inputs, just lifting off to let Tijani back past us. That was my mistake. I braked too late. I was trying to brake really late to stay in VPN's slipstream and to stay ahead of T-GT, but that was my error, and we let him back through there. Obviously put the hazards on to let him know what I was doing, and just about tucked back in so we didn't lose any positions to the drivers behind. So pretty much a knock-on effect of what VPN did on that the chicane, because we wouldn't have been there if obviously we wouldn't have got hit. We would have been up with the drivers in P6 there, so a little bit frustrated at that. So now we're behind GTA T-GT's on older tyres, which with this stupid times 33 tyre wear was the equivalent of he had done 33 more laps than what I had done. So his tyres were going to be feeling a little bit older. They weren't too bad for traction after one or two laps. It was lap 3 that they started to go a little bit and feel a little bit more worn. You started to get a bit of understeer and oversteer kicking in on traction. As we now look back on myself driving from T-GT's perspective, so you're going to see how we were gaining on him and trying to find the way past. Obviously we needed to get past as soon as possible. You can see we've got cars behind us. We need to get past so that we don't lose too much time. Obviously the drivers in front are starting to pull away because they've got much fresher tyres over T-GT, so we're going to get the slipstream now. However, T-GT was also picking up a slipstream from, I think it was VPN still. Obviously with weak slipstream you pick it up from quite far back, so he was just slightly picking it up. As we're gaining, obviously we're a bit closer than what he is to VPN, but we're not able to make a move. I have a little look on the inside there, but again, not able to throw it up the inside there, so just make sure I brake nice and early and try and concentrate on picking up a really good traction out of the corner. I wanted to make sure I was as close as possible because I knew the opportunity would come on this lap, mainly into the chicane, the tight, with the heavy braking zone into the really tight chicane. That was a really good place to make an overtake there. So what we're going to try and do now is stay very close all the way through these corners and just put ourselves in the best position to make a move if possible. So we need to be very close coming out of this corner. You can see being quite aggressive there, trying to get as close as possible. You can see the car getting very loose through there with the obviously the losses downforce, and then trying to hook the apex up there nicely. We really got onto the apex nicely there and onto the power very nice, and got very close to the rear of T-GT now. So we're going to be able to go for the move. This is what I wanted to happen. Pull out to the right hand side, and we're going to just throw it up the right hand side and go a little bit later on the brakes. We're going to have the extra grip on the tyres to make that move, and it was a comfortable move in the end. I think T-GT just let that one go. Obviously knows that he's on more worn tyres. There was no point fighting anything too hard, and now we've got to see if we can just make any grounds on the drivers in front. We didn't lose too much time to VPN, but it looks like we might be outside the slipstream now. Obviously it is a big slipstream with weak, but that I think that gap was over 2 seconds, so we're not going to get any slipstream now going into the main straight. As you can see, Manuel Rodri behind GTA T-GT. Is he going to go for a move out through that corner? He's not going to go for that move there. You can see it in the bottom right hand corner just as we went through that final corner, and now we're going down the main straight as T-GT still just picking up slipstream from me. I think it was about 9 tenths back at this stage, but we're too far back from VPN to get any sort of slipstream, so we're just going to have to concentrate on finding our brake marker and making sure we don't brake too late into turn 1. I didn't want to make a mistake. Now we're coming through to the last 3 laps in this race. We're in a pretty solid position. We're in P7 at the moment. We've got some drivers that haven't pitted there. I think TRL Org hasn't made a pit stop yet, so he's going to be struggling with them tyres as we get through to the final laps in this race. I think you can just see him up ahead there in front of us starting to struggle on this lap now. So we probably will be catching him up at any moment, probably I think it would be lap 8 or so as we go through this long right hand corner again, trying to be very progressive through that corner because that corner really takes a lot of tyre wear out the front left tyre. And now into the braking zone, trying to hook the apex up as we got TRL Manuel Rodri behind us there, a very fast driver, and we just got to try and hold him off. Now the downside to this is we haven't got a slipstream to defend against any drivers now, so they're going to find it a lot easier to get close to us on the acceleration zones as we ride on board with Manuel Rodri into the heavy braking zone. You can see braking nice and early in front there to make sure I hook the corner up, and just trying to get on the power and give myself some breathing space out of these corners, trying to concentrate on exit speeds rather than the entry speeds in these corners with this car. Obviously, like I say, these cars are not my strength. However, I knew that if I looked after the rears and tried with the right brake bias, I might be able to defend with just trying to get solid exits. You can see me really squaring the corners off at this stage in the race and trying to concentrate on getting on the power as early as I can, as he is also getting put under pressure by that TX3 driver behind him. So this is going to be really close now as we get a massive error coming out of that corner. You can see I got onto the power too early, ran a little bit wide, and we lost a massive amount of traction from the final corner, and this is going to give Manuel Rodri the opportunity to go for a move. I decided at this point I was going to go defensive, but I thought I'm just going to stay to the left because where he is on the track, he's going to have to brake late. So what I did was try and brake a little bit earlier so that he would brake a little bit later and go very wide into the corner. You can see taking a really wide line, then cutting back onto the apex and then getting on the power nice and early and seeing if we could get him back on the inside, which we're going to be able to do. You can see him in my mirror now, and we've actually put ourselves back into that P7 position with some very nice driving there. And now we've got Tiara Lorg in front of us in P6, who is on that no stop strategy. I don't know what tyres he was on, but he does seem to be struggling quite a lot there in front of us. He's managing to hold on to the back of them at the moment, obviously trying to pick up some sort of slipstream. I don't think he was fighting people too hard at this stage. He's probably just trying to pick up any try and keep any position that he can and just use people's slipstream, as he's obviously going to be coming under a lot of threat from a lot of other drivers as we go through to the final laps in this race now, as we're about to start the final lap. We're obviously on lap 8 at the moment, going into the braking zone. Trying to hook this corner up is really important at this stage, that I hook these corners up, because I wanted to get the slipstream off Tiara Lorg going down the straight to help me defend against Manuel Rodri that was behind me. And at the moment it looks like we're going to pick it up really nicely, as we see from the replay camera. It's pretty much 4 cars in this battle for P6 at the moment. You can see that there's a gap between the driver, I think in P9 to P10 I think it was, as we now come through to the final corner. And again, this is where it's so important to hook up the corner and get a really solid exit, as Manuel Rodri goes very deep into that corner, again trying to widen the line. And we all pick up reasonable exits there, and we're actually in a good position now because we've got Tiara Lorg slipstream there, which is going to help me out now in terms of defending into turn 1. Are we going to be able to hold on to this P7 or pick up that P6 position before the end of the race? As we go into the braking zone, Org's indicating to the left hand side. I go over to the right hand side because I thought he was just going to let me go, but he misses his brake slightly. I think he actually got his braking onto the grass and he outbrakes himself. So we hit our brakes spot on, getting on the power nice and early, trying to get a good solid exit from that corner. And now we're going onto the final lap in P6 in this race. So actually having a really good race so far. This is quite unexpected, to be honest, because I didn't expect to be picking up a good result here in Fuji in this car. I do like the track. It is a strong track for me. However, like I say, road cars in general are not the strongest for myself, although they're probably a little bit stronger now because obviously the shifter is not available in sport mode and daily races. So the shifter, obviously you can use it in open lobbies, but in sport mode it's not, there's no advantage. They just I think it's banned from being used. Basically you can't have manual clutch through sport mode now, so there's no advantage for any drivers, whereas in the past there used to be. As Manuel Rodri gives us a little tap there, I think he outbraked himself slightly in the braking zone and taps the rear of our car, which unsettles the car slightly and loses me a bit of time, but it should be okay. As we see a lot of drivers really struggling with this 5-lap stint on the second seat. You can see drivers in front of me. We've actually started to gain on quite a few drivers. Possibly they've used up more tyre life, I don't know, but we were obviously trying to look after them tyres as much as possible. You can see the rear left is very warm, but the grip was reasonably okay. I was still not feeling like, you know, we were struggling too much, and we've actually caught up to quite a few drivers there. It's just the P1 that pulled away by quite a bit. He was the one that raced fairly comfortably, but we're going to pick up a P6 in this race, a very solid result, and extremely happy with that, pulling over to the right hand side, because although it's not an amazing position to finish P6, but this is a top split race, a 3K lobby race. So to pick up a P6 in a lobby like this, in a car that I'm not particularly strong with, was really encouraging. And with the races we've been having recently, it was really nice to pick up a solid result. And I took that. I didn't want to carry on. We picked up just over 2,200 points. So not doing amazing in the nations, but we've still got 3 more rounds with some quite solid combinations for myself, so we could manage to get ourselves back into the top 10, which is the aim obviously for the nations in terms of the UK. So I think we might be able to do that if we can just pick up some good results in these last 3 races. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. It was a good fun race in the F40, some close racing, some incidents from other drivers, some from ourselves, but we obviously give that position back to T-GT, and we still picked up that solid P6. So 100% happy with that result. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you did enjoy it. We'll be streaming as usual as much as possible through the week, and we'll be back with more videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.
Bye.